The sky darkened as the massive Valkyrie ships hovered over major cities across Earth for the 20th year. Their smooth, oval shapes had become a normal part of the skyline, a constant reminder of humanity's defeat. The aliens had arrived without warning, their technology far beyond anything humans could fight against. Within weeks, Earth's government surrendered. Lucy Wright stood at the window of the North American Administrative Center, watching the patrol ships circle the city. Her uniform, once proudly worn as a United States Air Force major, now carried the silver emblem of the Valkyrie alongside military patches. As one of the few humans permitted to work closely with the aliens, she lived in a world between two species. "Commander Wright, your presence is requested in meeting room 4, said a voice through her communication device. Lucy sighed. "On my way." She walked down the long hallway, nodding at the human staff who kept their eyes down as she passed. The Valkyrie had learned quickly that humans were useful workers, especially when controlled through fear. 20 years of harsh punishments for even small acts of disobedience had taught most people to obey without question. At the end of the hall, 2 Valkyrie guards stood by the door. They were nearly 7 feet tall with gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their 4-fingered hands rested on weapon belts. The guards watched Lucy with large black eyes that never seemed to blink. "Permission to enter," Lucy said, keeping her voice steady. One guard pressed a code and the door slid open. Inside, Regional Overseer Mac Vos sat at the head of a long table. The Valkyrie official's skin had the bluish tint that showed higher rank. "Commander Wright, sit," said Mac Vos, pointing to a chair with a long, thin finger. Lucy sat down and placed her tablet on the table. "You wanted to see me, Overseer?" "Reports show increasing problems in Sector 7. 3 humans were caught outside during curfew last night. A shipping container of medical supplies was found missing this morning." The Valkyrie's voice had a clicking quality that human throats could never copy. "You assured me last month that the sector was under control." Lucy kept her face blank. "I'll increase patrols in the area. The missing supplies were likely a tracking error. I'll personally check the inventory system." What she didn't say was that she knew exactly where those supplies had gone. The Resistance needed medicine, and she had looked the other way when the shipping numbers were changed. It was a dangerous game she played, but after 20 years of watching the Valkyrie rule through cruelty, small acts of defiance kept her sane. "See that you do," said Mac Vos. "The High Command grows tired of human errors." 20 miles away in the small town of Lakeside, Eric Patterson checked his watch as he rushed through the morning routine. His small house was one of hundreds built, in neat rows after the invasion. The Valkyrie liked order. "Zoe, breakfast is ready. You have 15 minutes before we need to leave." His 8-year-old daughter came into the kitchen, her brown hair tied in a messy ponytail. "Dad, can I wear my blue shirt today? The one with the stars?" "No, honey. Remember, no patterns allowed at the Learning Center." Eric placed a bowl of oatmeal on the table. "Eat up, we can't be late again." Zoe frowned but sat down to eat. Jimmy said his dad told him that before the aliens came, kids could wear whatever they wanted to school. Eric froze. This was dangerous talk, especially from a child who might repeat it in the wrong place. Jimmy's dad shouldn't tell stories about before, and you shouldn't repeat them. He softened his voice when he saw her face fall. "I know it's hard, Zoe, but the rules keep us safe." Safe was a relative term. Eric had lost his wife Jane during the first year of occupation when she'd been caught in a protest. The Valkyrie didn't give warnings. He couldn't lose Zoe too. "Now hurry up. I'll walk you to the Learning Center before my shift." They left their house at exactly 7:30 a.m., joining the stream of workers and students heading to their assigned places. Eric held Zoe's hand tightly as they walked past a Valkyrie patrol. The aliens rarely bothered children, but Eric still placed himself between them and his daughter. "Remember, straight home after lessons. Mrs. Miller will watch you until I get back from the facility." "I know, Dad." Zoe had grown up under occupation. She didn't know any other way of life. At the gate of the Learning Center, Eric knelt to hug his daughter. "Be good. I'll be home by 6. He watched her walk inside before turning toward the processing facility where he worked. The large building sat on the edge of town, surrounded by high fences. Humans weren't told what they processed, there only that the materials were vital to the Valkyrie. As a medical technician, Eric had more knowledge than most. He tested biological samples and prepared them for transport to the Valkyrie ships. Over years of careful observation, he had learned that the aliens were extracting specific compounds from Earth's plants and animals. Sometimes, he suspected, from humans too. Across town in an underground lab hidden beneath an old storage facility, Dr. Olivia Ramirez peered through a microscope at a Valkyrie blood sample. Getting it had cost the Resistance Network dearly, but the information it contained might be worth the risk. Fascinating, she whispered to herself. The cellular structure changes when exposed to the pheromone. Frank Delgado leaned against the wall, watching the door. Once a high school science teacher, now he carried messages and supplies for the Resistance. Learn anything useful, Doc? Something that might actually help us fight back? Olivia looked up from her work. Maybe. Their biology is complex, but I'm seeing patterns in how they respond to chemical triggers. They're not just militarily organized. It's built into their biology. Hierarchical responses seem to be chemically enforced. English, please, Frank said with a small smile. They literally can't disobey their superiors. It's a biological reaction, not just training. She pointed to her notes. But there's something else. When I exposed the sample to compounds from their young, it triggered a completely different reaction. It overrode other responses. Frank straightened. You're saying their children are a weakness? I'm saying their drive to protect the young might be even stronger than their obedience programming. I need more samples to be sure. Frank checked his watch. I have to go. I'm meeting a contact at the market. If your theory is right, it could change everything. As the sun set over Lakeside, Lucy Wright sat alone in her private quarters, reviewing reports on her secure tablet. Hidden among official documents was information from the Resistance. Tomorrow, a shipment of biological samples would leave the processing facility. If Dr. Ramirez's research was right, those samples might hold the key to understanding their oppressors. Lucy stared at the Valkyrie ships visible through her window. 20 years of fear and control. Perhaps it was finally time for that to change. Morning light filtered through the thin curtains as Zoe got ready for the learning center. Eric had already left for an early shift at the processing facility, but he had prepared her breakfast and lunch. A note on the table reminded her to go straight to Mrs. Miller's house after school. Zoe ate quickly, then checked the clock on the wall. She had 15 minutes to walk to the learning center. The Valkyrie were strict about timing. Children who arrived late might find their parents punished. Outside, the fall air was crisp and cool. Leaves crunched under her feet as she walked down the quiet street. Other children walked in small groups, but Zoe preferred to walk alone. It gave her time to look at the world around her, to notice things others missed, like the small Valkyrie child hiding behind the old oak tree in the park. Zoe stopped, not sure if her eyes were playing tricks. The Valkyrie rarely brought their young to Earth. Most humans didn't even know what their children looked like. This one was small, maybe 3 feet tall. Its skin was lighter gray than the adults, almost silver in the morning light. It looked around with wide black eyes that seemed scared. Zoe knew she should keep walking. Her dad had told her many times never to draw attention from the aliens, but the young Valkyrie was making a soft clicking sound that somehow sounded like crying. She looked around. No adults, human or alien, were nearby. Taking a deep breath, she stepped off the path and walked slowly toward the tree. "Are you okay?" she asked in a soft voice. The alien child backed against the tree trunk, its 4-fingered hands pressed against the bark. "I won't hurt you," Zoe said. She pointed to herself. "I'm Zoe." The small being tilted its head, studying her. Then it raised one hand in what looked like a greeting. Zoe smiled and raised her hand too. "Are you lost?" Before the alien child could respond, a harsh voice cut through the air. "Step away from the juvenile." 2 adult Valkyrie patrol officers rushed toward them. Zoe froze in place, fear washing over her. The smaller Valkyrie made a high-pitched sound and tried to move behind her. "I was just helping," Zoe started to explain. The taller officer grabbed her arm roughly. "Humans do not approach Valkyrie young. This is forbidden." "It looked scared," Zoe said, her voice trembling. "I thought—" The officer's hand struck her face with shocking force. Zoe fell to the ground, pain exploding through her head. She heard the young Valkyrie making distressed sounds. "Take the juvenile back to the ship," the officer said to his partner. "I will deal with the human." Through blurry vision, Zoe saw the second officer lead the small alien away. The remaining officer loomed over her. "Human children must learn respect," he said coldly. His boot came down on her outstretched hand. Zoe screamed as she felt bones break. From across the park, Frank Delgado watched in horror. He had been on his way to meet a contact when he saw the confrontation. Without thinking, he ran toward them. "Stop," he shouted. "She's just a child." The Valkyrie officer turned. "This is not your concern, human." Other people had heard the commotion and were watching from a distance. No one dared to help, but they were witnesses. The officer seemed to realize this. With a final threatening, "Look at Zoe." He turned and walked away. Frank rushed to Zoe's side. Her face was bruised and her hand was already swelling. Blood trickled from a cut on her cheek. "Help me," she whimpered. "It hurts." "I've got you," Frank said, carefully lifting her. "We need to get you to the medical center." At the processing facility, Eric was testing samples when his supervisor called him to the office. "Patterson, there's an emergency call for you." Eric's heart dropped. Emergency calls were never good news. The supervisor handed him a phone. "Your daughter is at the medical center. Go." Eric ran all the way there, fear giving him speed. At the medical center, he found Zoe on a bed, her hand wrapped in a temporary cast, her face bruised and swollen. "Zoe, what happened?" He rushed to her side, carefully touching her uninjured cheek. A man standing nearby stepped forward. "A Val-3 officer attacked her. I saw the whole thing." Eric turned, noticing Frank for the first time. "Why? What did she do?" "Nothing wrong," Frank said quietly. "She was trying to help a young Val-3 who seemed lost." Eric felt his blood run cold. Interactions with the Val-3 young were strictly forbidden. "Will she be okay?" he asked the doctor who was checking Zoe's vitals. "Broken hand, facial contusions, possible concussion. We need to keep her for observation." Eric nodded, then turned back to Frank. "Thank you for helping her." "I'm Frank Delgado," the man said, offering his hand. "I used to teach science, at the high school." Eric shook his hand. "Eric Patterson. I work at the processing facility." Something in Frank's eyes suggested he knew more than he was saying. "We should talk later, about what happened." In the afternoon, Lucy Wright received an unusual report on her tablet. A human child had been injured by a Val-3 officer in Lakeside. The report included medical details and noted that the incident involved a Val-3 juvenile. This was odd. The Val-3 were brutal when enforcing rules, but they rarely harmed children physically, and incidents involving their own young were practically unheard of. Lucy made a decision that could cost her everything. She used her security clearance to access the Val-3 communication system. There, she found encrypted messages about the incident being sent to the command ship. The translation was difficult, but certain phrases stood out. Protocol violation, officer to be recalled, incident with human juvenile requires attention, potential contamination of the young one. Lucy downloaded the information to a secure drive, then cleared her access history. If Dr. Ramirez's research about the Val-3's protective instincts toward the young was correct, this incident might be significant. On the Val-3 command ship, orbiting Earth, Sub-Prefect Calvor reviewed the report with growing concern. The officer who had struck the human child was already in isolation, awaiting judgment. "This should not have happened," Calvor said to his aide. "Contact with human young was expressly to be avoided. The officer claims he was protecting our juvenile," the aide replied. "By harming another young one?" Calvor's skin darkened with emotion. This violates our most basic codes. A door slid open, and Prefect Zelvorn entered. All officers in the room bowed their heads in respect. I have reviewed the incident, Zelvorn said. His voice had the deep resonance of the highest Valkyrie caste. The officer will be returned to the homeworld for reconditioning. Calvor hesitated, then spoke. Prefect, there is concern about possible witnesses. Humans saw the attack. Zelvorn's eyes narrowed. This is troubling. Humans must not learn of our reaction to such incidents. Increase patrols in the area. Monitor all communications. As night fell, Eric sat by Zoe's hospital bed. She had finally fallen asleep, her small face still swollen from the attack. He held her uninjured hand, anger and helplessness washing over him in waves. A nurse entered, quietly, and placed a small piece of paper on the table. From the man who brought her in, she whispered before leaving. Eric unfolded the note. It contained a single sentence. If you want to fight back, meet me tomorrow at the old library. He stared at the words, feeling something new rise within him. Not just anger, not just fear. Hope. The old library stood abandoned at the edge of town. Books had been removed years ago when the Valkyrie decided to control all information through digital means they could monitor. Now the building served only as a forgotten reminder of how things used to be. Eric approached carefully, looking around to make sure no one followed him. He had left Zoe at Mrs. Miller's house after the hospital released her. His daughter was still in pain, her hand in a cast, her face bruised. The sight of her injuries fueled a fire inside him that wouldn't die down. The library's back door was unlocked. Eric slipped inside, finding himself in a dusty room with empty shelves. For a moment, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. Then a door opened at the far end of the room. Mr. Patterson, thank you for coming. Frank Delgado stepped into the light. Follow me. Frank led Eric down a set of stairs hidden behind a bookshelf. At the bottom, they entered a room that shocked Eric. People sat at tables with computers and communication equipment. Maps covered the walls marked with red dots and lines. In one corner, medical supplies were stacked in boxes. What is all this? Eric asked. The Resistance, Frank replied. We've been operating for years, building our network slowly. A woman approached them. She wore a lab coat and had dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. I'm Dr. Olivia Ramirez. I heard about your daughter. How is she? Recovering, Eric said. But she's scared. The Valkyrie have never attacked a child before, at least not that I've heard. That's what makes this incident so important, Olivia said. She pointed to a screen showing microscope images. I've been studying Valkyrie biology. Their reaction to your daughter suggests something significant about their species. What do you mean? Eric asked. The Valkyrie have a powerful biological drive to protect young beings, Olivia explained. It overrides their other instincts. The officer who hurt Zoe broke their own biological code. That's why the reaction from their leadership has been so strong. Frank nodded. We have a source in the administrative center who's intercepted communications. The officer who attacked Zoe has been removed from Earth completely. Eric tried to process this information. So they care about their children. How does that help us? It might be their weakness, Olivia said. If we can show them that their occupation hurts children, both human and their own, it could trigger a species-wide response. In her office at the North American Administrative Center, Lucy Wright deleted another set of files from her search. History. She had been digging deeper into Valkyrie protocols regarding their young, and what she found was fascinating. The aliens had strict rules about keeping their children away from human population centers. Those rules existed not to protect the Valkyrie young, but to prevent their adult population from seeing the effects of occupation on human children. Lucy's tablet beeped with an encrypted message. It was from her resistance contact. Information received. Meeting with the father tonight. Need more data on Valkyrie young. Lucy typed back. Working on it. Increased security. Will send what I can. The door to her office slid open, and Regional Overseer Mac Voss entered without warning. Lucy quickly locked her tablet. Commander Wright, the Valkyrie said. There has been an incident in Lakeside. Lucy kept her face neutral. Yes, I saw the report. A human child was injured by one of your officers. The officer has been removed, Macvos said. You will increase security in that area. Monitor the human medical facility. We do not want this incident discussed. May I ask why this particular incident requires such attention? Lucy asked, carefully. The Valkyrie's skin darkened slightly, a sign of emotional response. You may not. Follow orders, Commander. After Macvos left, Lucy immediately sent another encrypted message. Something big. They're nervous about the incident spreading. Use this. On the Valkyrie command ship, Prefect Zelvorn reviewed the images from the park incident again. The human child had approached the Valkyrie juvenile with no signs of aggression. The officer's violent response was unacceptable by their standards. Sub-Prefect, Zelvorn called to his second-in-command. Calvor approached and bowed. Yes, Prefect? What is the condition of our juvenile who was involved in the incident? Distressed, Prefect. It keeps asking about the human young one who was harmed. Zelvorn's skin rippled with concern. And the human child? Reports indicate broken bones and facial injuries. She is recovering at home. This is troubling, Zelvorn said. Our presence on this planet was never meant to harm the young of any species. The High Command will be displeased. Shall I increase the security protocols around our juvenile centers? Calvor asked. Yes. And initiate a review of all incidents involving human children over the past cycle. I want to know if this is isolated or part of a pattern we have missed. Back at the Resistance headquarters, Eric looked at photos of other incidents collected over the years. Children who lost parents to Valkyrie punishment, families separated when workers were sent to different processing facilities, schools closed when teachers spoke against the occupation. Every occupation has resistance, Frank said. But for 20 years we've been fighting small battles we can't win. This is different. We need to spread the word about what happened to Zoe. Use my daughter as a symbol? Eric frowned. She's already been hurt enough. Not just Zoe, Olivia explained. Every child affected by the Valkyrie. If we can show them the harm they've caused to the young, both ours and theirs, it might trigger something in their biology that even their military training can't override. A door opened, and a woman in a military uniform entered. Eric recognized her instantly. Commander Wright, he said, standing up. You work for them. I work for humanity, Lucy replied. I always have. Frank stepped forward. Lucy has been our most valuable source for years. Her position gives us access we couldn't get otherwise. Lucy placed a data drive on the table. The Valkyrie are deeply disturbed by what happened to your daughter, Mr. Patterson. Their leadership is reviewing all incidents involving human children. They're worried. Good, Eric said, his voice hard. They should be. We need to act quickly, Lucy continued. I've brought plans for their juvenile centers. There are 3 on Earth, carefully hidden. If we can document conditions there and compare them to how human children live under occupation, we might trigger a species-wide response. Olivia studied the plans. This could work, but we'd need to get this information everywhere at once. The Valkyrie control all communication channels. Not all of them, Frank said with a small smile. We've been building our own network for years. Hidden transmitters, old radio equipment, even printed materials. We can reach most human settlements within days. Eric looked at the photo of Zoe on the table, her bruised face and cast-covered hand. Then he looked at the group of people planning resistance against the most powerful force on Earth. What do you need from me? He asked. Your permission, Lucy said, to tell Zoe's story, and your help to spread the word. Eric took a deep breath. The Valkyrie have ruled through fear for 20 years. Maybe it's time they felt some fear of their own. As they planned late into the night, none of them noticed the small camera hidden in the corner of the room. In his private quarters, Regional, Overseer Macvos watched the humans plot with growing concern. Commander Wright's betrayal was unexpected but not surprising. Humans were unpredictable. Macvos reached for his communication device to alert security forces, but as he saw the image of the injured human child on the rebels' table, his hand froze. Something deep in his Val-3 biology responded to the sight of a harmed young one. For the first time in his 20 years on Earth, Macvos hesitated to follow protocol, and in that moment of hesitation, everything began to change. The sun was just rising when the resistance plan went into action. All across Earth, hidden transmitters activated simultaneously. Screens in homes and public spaces that normally showed only Val-3 approved content suddenly changed. The image of Zoe Patterson's bruised face appeared everywhere. A voice narrated. This human child tried to help a lost Val-3 young one. This was her reward. The broadcast continued, showing other children affected by the occupation. Orphans created when parents were punished. Sick children denied medicine. Young ones working in processing facilities instead of attending school. Then came the most dangerous part of the plan. Images smuggled from the Val-3 juvenile centers. The alien children lived in comfort and safety, while human children suffered. The contrast was stark and deliberate. The broadcast ended with a simple message. No young ones should suffer. Not human, not Val-3. End the occupation. In homes across Lakeside, people watched in shocked silence. Some cried. Others felt hope. For the first time in years, all waited for the inevitable Val-3 response. Eric sat with Zoe in their living room, watching the broadcast on their small screen. He had explained to his daughter that her story might help change things. She didn't fully understand, but she trusted her father. Will the aliens be mad at me? She asked, her uninjured hand holding his tightly. They might be mad at all of us, Eric said honestly, but sometimes you have to stand up even when you're scared. Zoe nodded solemnly. Like when Billy Thompson was picking on Sam at the Learning Center, and I told him to stop? Eric smiled despite his fear. Just like that, only much bigger. Their screen suddenly went blank as the Val-3 cut the transmission. Then came the sound they had been expecting. Patrol ships overhead. At the North American Administrative Center, chaos erupted. Alarms blared as officials tried to track the source of the unauthorized broadcast. Lucy Wright moved quickly through the corridors, her uniform giving her access to restricted areas. She reached the main communications center just as Regional Overseer Macvos arrived. Commander Wright, he said, his voice oddly subdued. Did you see the transmission? Yes, Overseer, Lucy replied, watching him carefully. She had expected to be arrested immediately. The Val-3 had surveillance everywhere. They must know of her involvement. Secure this facility, Macvos ordered. I must speak with the prefect. As he turned to leave, he added in a lower voice, the human child, the one who was injured, is she recovering? Lucy blinked in surprise. Yes, she is. Macvos nodded once, then left without another word. On the command ship, Prefect Zell Vorn watched the human broadcast with growing alarm. Around him, Val-3 officers shifted uncomfortably, their skin changing colors as they reacted to images of suffering children. How did the humans access our juvenile centers? Zell Vorn demanded. Unknown, Prefect, Sub-Prefect Calvor replied. But the security breach is secondary to the content of the transmission. Explain, Zell Vorn ordered, though he already understood the problem. Our personnel are responding to the images. 3 security teams have already refused orders to suppress human gatherings where children are present. Calvor's skin rippled with distress. The biological imperative is activating across our forces. Zell Vorn turned to the viewing screen where reports showed humans gathering in streets and town squares. Many held children in their arms or by their sides. It was a deliberate tactic and a clever one. The High Command must be informed, Zell Vorn said. This situation may require reconsideration of our approach. In the Resistance headquarters, Frank and Olivia monitored communications from their network across the planet. It's working, Frank said excitedly. Reports coming in from everywhere. Humans are gathering in public. The Val-3 patrols are standing down or withdrawing completely. Olivia studied data on her screen. The biological response is even stronger than I predicted. Their entire command structure could be affected. The door burst open, and Lucy rushed. And we need to move now. Makvos knows about this place, but he's acting strangely. I don't think we have much time before someone else comes looking. What about Eric and Zoe? Frank asked as they gathered essential equipment. I have a team bringing them here, Lucy said. We need their story firsthand for the next broadcast. Across town. Eric heard a knock at his door. He approached cautiously, keeping Zoe behind him. When he opened the door, he found 2 resistance members he recognized from the meeting. Commander Wright sent us, a woman said. We need to get you and your daughter to headquarters immediately. Eric grabbed a small bag he had packed in preparation. Let's go. They moved quickly through back streets, avoiding the main roads where Valkyrie patrols might still be active. The woman led while the man watched their backs. They were halfway to the old library when a patrol ship appeared overhead. Run! The woman shouted as the ship's searchlight swept toward them. They sprinted toward an abandoned warehouse. The ship followed, its engines humming loudly. Eric carried Zoe, ignoring the pain in his back as he ran. They made it inside just as the ship landed in the street. This way, the man whispered, leading them deeper into the building. They heard the warehouse. Doors slam open. Footsteps approached, the heavy tread of Valkyrie boots. Hide here, the woman said, pointing to a small storage room. We'll draw them away. Before Eric could protest, the 2 resistance members moved in the opposite direction, deliberately, making noise. He pulled Zoe into the storage room and closed the door, leaving just a crack to see through. The footsteps split up. Some followed the decoys, but one set came toward their hiding place. Eric held his breath, feeling Zoe tremble against him. The storage room door swung open. A Valkyrie officer stood there, weapon drawn. It was Regional Overseer Mac Voss himself. Eric pushed Zoe behind him, ready to fight even though he knew it was hopeless. Mac Voss lowered his weapon. The human child, he said, looking at Zoe. She was the one in the broadcast. Yes, Eric said, his voice steady despite his fear. What are you going to do about it? The Valkyrie officer was silent for a long moment. Then, to Eric's shock, he put his weapon away. My team will report that this building was empty, Makvos said quietly. There is an exit at the back. You will find no patrols there. Why? Eric asked. Makvos looked at Zoe again, his alien eyes unreadable. I have young ones too. Without another word, he closed the door and walked away. Eric waited until the footsteps faded, then led Zoe to the back exit. Just as Makvos had said, the alley was clear. At the Resistance headquarters, Lucy paced nervously. They should have been here by now. Something must have happened, Frank said. We should send another team. The door opened and Eric entered with Zoe. Lucy rushed forward. Thank goodness, we were worried. She knelt in front of Zoe. Hello again. Do you remember me? Zoe nodded. You're the lady from the hospital. That's right, Lucy said with a smile. You're very brave, do you know that? A Valkyrie officer found us, Eric told them. Regional Overseer Mac Voss himself, but he let us go. Olivia looked up from her computer. It's happening everywhere. The Valkyrie are responding to the images of children. Their biological imperative is overriding their military discipline. What does that mean for us? Eric asked. It means, Lucy said, that for the first time in 20 years, we have a real chance to end the occupation. Outside, the sound of Valkyrie ships filled the air. But this time they weren't patrol ships. They were transports and they were heading up, not down. The occupation was beginning to crumble. 3 days after the broadcast, the Resistance headquarters buzzed with activity. Reports came in from around the world of Valkyrie forces withdrawing. Some humans celebrated in the streets, but most remained cautious. 20 years of occupation had taught them that hope could be dangerous. Lucy Wright arrived with urgent news. Prefect Zelvorn has requested a meeting with human representatives. They want to talk. It could be a trap, Frank warned. I don't think so, Lucy replied. The Valkyrie ships have been leaving Earth's orbit. Nearly half their fleet is gone already. Olivia looked up from her computer. My contacts in other regions report the same thing. This is happening globally. Who will meet with them? Eric asked. Lucy took a deep breath. They've asked for you and Zoe specifically, along with me as a military liaison and Dr. Ramirez for her scientific expertise. The room fell silent. Eric looked at his daughter, who was drawing pictures with some colored pencils the resistance members had found for her. Why us? He asked. Zoe is the catalyst that started all this, Lucy explained. And the prefect seems to think that meeting the child who tried to help one of their young ones is important. Eric shook his head. It's too dangerous. I won't put Zoe at risk again. Dad, Zoe said, looking up from her drawing. Everyone turned to her in surprise. Is this about the aliens leaving? Yes, honey, Eric said. The one who found us in the warehouse didn't hurt us, Zoe said simply. Maybe they're not all bad. From the mouths of children, Eric thought. After a long moment, he nodded. We'll go. But at the first sign of trouble, we leave. The next morning, they arrived at the North American Administrative Center. The building looked different now. Many of the Valtteri guards were gone, and humans moved through the halls with a new confidence. They were led to a large meeting room. Prefect Zelvorn waited there, along with Sub-Prefect Calvor, and surprisingly, Regional Overseer Makvos. Thank you for coming, Zelvorn said, his deep voice filling the room. Especially you, young one. He nodded to Zoe, who partially hid behind her father. What do you want? Eric asked bluntly. To explain, Zelvorn replied. And to end this conflict. The prefect gestured, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a beautiful world with 3 moons and vast oceans. This is our homeworld, Valthria, Zelvorn said. 10 of your Earth years ago, it was struck by a biological disaster, a disease that specifically targets our young. Our species faces extinction within a generation. What does that have to do with Earth? Lucy asked. Calvor stepped forward. Our scientists discovered compounds in Earth's biosphere that might cure our children. We came here in desperation, not conquest. Then why the occupation? Olivia demanded. Why not just ask for help? Fear, Makvos said quietly. We feared that if humans knew our weakness, they would use it against us. So we used fear against them first. Zelvorn continued. The incident with your daughter showed us our error. When our officer harmed a human child, it triggered a biological response across our entire species. We are programmed at the cellular level to protect the young. All young, not just our own. The broadcast made it impossible to ignore, Calvor added. Images of suffering children, both human and Valtteri, spread through our forces. Many refused to continue the occupation. Zoe, who had been listening carefully, stepped forward. Is the alien child okay? The one I tried to help? Zelvorn's skin changed color in what might have been surprise. Yes, young one. That child is my own offspring. It was separated from its guardian during a routine inspection. What happens now? Eric asked. We propose an end to the occupation, Zelvorn said. In its place, a partnership. Your Dr. Ramirez's research suggests that working together, our species might solve the disease affecting our young. Olivia looked stunned. You know about my research? Makvos nodded. I have been watching your resistance for some time. Your understanding of our biology is impressive. Lucy stepped forward. And if we refuse this partnership, then we will leave, Zelvorn said simply. We recognize that our method of approach was wrong. We cannot continue to occupy your world against your will. Not when the cost is the suffering of the young. The humans exchanged glances. This was more than they had dared hope for. We'll need to discuss this with other human representatives, Lucy said. This decision can't be made by just the 4 of us. Of course, Zelvorn agreed. We will await your response. As they prepared to leave, Zoe tugged on her father's sleeve. When he bent down, she whispered something in his ear. Eric looked surprised, then nodded. My daughter has something she would like to give you, he said to Zelvorn. Zoe stepped forward, her cast-covered hand partially hidden behind her back. In her good hand, she held her drawing. She offered it to the Valkyrie leader. The drawing showed two children holding hands, one human, one alien. For your child, she said. So they know I'm okay. Zelvorn took the drawing carefully. For a moment, the mighty Valkyrie leader seemed unable to speak. Finally, he bowed deeply to the small human girl. Thank you, he said. This will mean more than you know. 1 week later, the occupation officially ended. Valkyrie ships left Earth's orbit except for a small scientific delegation that remained by invitation. Humans around the world celebrated their freedom while beginning the long process of rebuilding their societies. In Lakeside, life slowly returned to normal. Schools reopened without Valkyrie restrictions. People moved freely, no longer fearing patrols or curfews. Eric watched Zoe play in the park where everything had started. Her cast was smaller now, and the bruises on her face had faded. Other children ran around her, their laughter filling the air. She's a remarkable child, Lucy said, joining Eric on the park bench. All children are, Eric replied. That's what the Valkyrie finally understood. Dr. Ramirez's team is making progress, Lucy told him. The combined research might actually cure the Valkyrie disease. Humans helping aliens. Who would have thought? Eric smiled. Zoe would say it's simple. People should help each other when they're in trouble. Across the park, a small group of visitors attracted attention. A Valkyrie adult accompanied by a child approached cautiously. Eric recognized Makvos, now serving as liaison between the species. The Valkyrie child moved forward slowly, stopping near Zoe. The human children paused their play, watching with curiosity instead of fear. Zoe looked up at the alien child. Then, with the simple wisdom of children, she offered a ball. Want to play? She asked. The Valkyrie child took the ball carefully with its four-fingered hand. After a moment's hesitation, it tossed the ball back to Zoe. Soon, human and alien children played together while adults watched in wonder. Eric felt tears in his eyes as he observed this simple miracle. For 20 years, the Valkyrie had ruled Earth through fear, but fear had ultimately proven weaker than compassion. It took the bravery of a child to show both species a better way forward. As the sun set over Lakeside Park, human and Valkyrie alike watched their children play in the fading light. The future would hold challenges, but today at least, hope seemed stronger than fear, and it had all begun because they had harmed a human child.